and welcome to this edition of the Assek Member Spotlight. My name is Michelle Jari. I'm the Assek Communications Officer. Today we get a chance to speak to Ngosa Mupela, Business Manager and Chief of Staff at Close the Gap. He tells us how Close the Gap is playing a role in eliminating digital illiteracy amongst the Kenyan youth. Stay tuned for this episode. Hi Ngosa, how are you doing?
Great. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. So let me start off by asking, briefly give us a brief background of Close the Gap and your role in the company.
Well, Close Gap is an impact investment and circular economy company. What we do and what we have been doing since our inception about 15 years ago in Belgium is providing high quality refurbished affordable computer equipment to countries within developing nations. Kenya had been our biggest market for that, and as a result in 2019 we chose to move here and set up in Mombasa. We have various different activities that we do. I think we're going to get into that a little bit later, but notwithstanding, we have Digi-trucks, which are mobile classrooms for digital skills. We also have an incubation program, and we also do impact investments within Mombasa and the Greater Kenya.
Thank you so much, Ngosa. So how many consultants are there in your team?
By consultants, you mean people who work?
Yes.
Right now, Close the Gap is a company of 30 people. We started with 5 in 2019, and we've grown to 30 in the past 2 years. So could call that rapid growth.
Yes.
And then if you remove those people who just directly work for Close the Gap, then people who provide us services directly as part of our ecosystem, then that number goes up to something like 40.
Okay. And to date, how many organizations have you worked with?
We've worked with a couple, but I would say we've definitely worked with between 5 and 8 organizations under very structured MOU type work, all around the idea of providing sort of the infrastructure for specifically the youth to get engaged in the digital space, because again, that's our entire ethos, that's our entire goal.
Yeah. And how many entrepreneurs have been trained out of the cohorts that you've been able to run?
So to date, we've run, our third cohort is currently running. We have about 10 entrepreneurs per cohort. So I'd say we've fully trained 20, and we're going on 30 by the end of this week.
Awesome. So do you think that digital illiteracy among the Kenyan youth in rural areas is still a major problem?
Yes, I think certainly it is still a major problem, and I think that's why we're here to close the gap in that regard. We find that there's a lot of talk always about the digital economy being the next big thing, being how Africa and countries within it are going to leapfrog these development challenges, which is in fact true. The digital space is that, but then we find that there's just no way to access the digital space, especially in these areas, because the price tag of the equipment that you would need to be able to access that space is out of reach, especially for rural and peri-urban dwellers. And so our goal is, how do you both reduce the barrier to entry within the price tag, and then also provide the educational services around that to get people engaged and in touch with the skills. For example, I would say that I may be going a little long here, but I would say that when I was a young man, I've always had a computer in my life, right? Because my father was a computer science lecturer, so it was part of my upbringing. So I don't know a world without that. But a lot of people who are born who are my age and even younger have never had that experience. And so if you've never had that experience, you have no way to sort of connect and find ways to monetize that for yourself, unless somebody shows you and gives you that opportunity.
Okay, interesting. And in your opinion, apart from just access to these computers and electronic devices, what other factors play a role in this digital literacy rates being so high in Kenya?
I mean, I think the most important factor is sort of the education system is not geared towards teaching people, I think, how to creatively use these these devices. In fact, I don't think that it's geared also to, in general, just teaching people how to use the basic functionalities of them. So if you can't use the basic functionalities of them, then you're not going to be able to use them creatively. If you can't use them creatively, then you can't monetize them, because that's the key. And we found this especially with our Digi-truck program, which again really targets basic sort of skills training initially, and then going above from there. And we found that a lot of youth, especially in the rural areas, just don't have that very basic standard education, so that limits their ability to really engage in their space, and then also puts them puts them behind their more urban counterparts in cities like Nairobi, or in more affluent areas of cities like Mombasa and Kisumu, etc.
Oh, interesting. Now that you've talked about the Close the Gap's Digi-truck program, could you tell us more about it and how it's helping the youth in rural areas and low-income backgrounds gain access to digital facilities and train them on e-waste management?
Sure. So the Digi-truck in itself is a mobile containerized computer lab. It's powered by solar power. And it's designed to be a self-contained unit that you can pull from the ground, put on a truck, and send it to the far reaches of any country that it is in. It was an innovation that was started by our founder, Olivier van den Einde, about in 2014, with the first Digi-truck being somewhere in France, and then to reach sort of the rural areas of France, people who weren't getting those sort of digital skills. And then we did a couple in South Africa. And then with our partnership with Huawei, we built, actually a partnership with Huawei and Arrow Electronics, we built the first 2 Digi-trucks for Kenya. But then again, because Close the Gap is more of an infrastructure player, in that we'll build a Digi-truck, we'll provide the infrastructure for it. We work with local partners to deliver the actual educational content, because that's not where we're strongest at. So with the Huawei Digi-truck, we work with Computer for Schools Kenya, who delivers the digital content, and Huawei as well is very sort of involved in getting the counties around the country involved in the truck and where it's going, and it delivering sort of these skills to the people within the counties. So that's the Digi-truck, that's the concept. I think your question was, how have we found it to? And I think the key, as one of the things it's been across the country. It's definitely been all the outlying areas in Nairobi, so Nakuru. I don't have them all in the back of my head, but I'm sure after this I'll sort of give you a list of where it has been. But it's definitely been, even here in Mombasa, it's delivered from the last impact report that I saw, we've reached about 10,000 youth across Kenya through the counties, because typically it'll move to a county, stay there for a period of time, and they will leverage the county officials. This is where working with a partner like Computer for Schools Kenya comes in, to really bring in youth to be trained in this program, and then just keep on doing that in different counties. We've now also built one which will be going to Zambia. And I think the great thing about the Digi-truck in itself is that it's a local, it's almost a local product in itself, because we build it here with Container Technology, a Mombasa-based company builds the entire truck. So that's sort of, that works to create employment within Mombasa, and then they're also going to be delivering it across Kenya and also across Africa, hopefully.
Wow, that's impressive. And what additional steps can the government take to ensure that digital literacy levels are increased in the rural areas in Kenya?
So I think from my perspective, I think what the government has is sort of the government has data. Yes. Right, they're the only entity in this country, and any country really, a government that is allowed to sort of coerce people in a positive way to provide them the data. So the government knows where the youth are, the government knows at what levels of education the youth are, the government knows what level of education they're delivering to the youth, because 80% to 90% of the Kenyan youth are in government funded schools. So I think one of the key things that they can do is sort of use that data to figure out, okay, where is the digital literacy skills training at now within the local school system, and how can that be supplemented by different partners, and sort of work towards providing both financial and technical funding to be able to do that in areas maybe that they can't reach as well. And so to me, I always feel like working with sort of the institutions of the state should always be a partnership between the private sector and the state institutions to really add value to those areas. So I think that, to me, that's key. How can the government use this data to provide the best possible curricula and deliver that to the youth?
Interesting. So apart from even just the TVET, you'd hope that one day, I'm sure, that you to partner with the government on such projects.
It would be great. We would definitely love that, because again, like I say, they have reach. We have 2 Digi-trucks running in Kenya. If, for example, if the Digi-truck and all of its was a government-funded project, for example, or had access to that type of funding, then we could build more. The government has access to all of the teachers that are coming out of teachers' colleges, right? So if they were trained to deliver programs like this, right, that would be great. Then there's a system to feed them into it, and then go out there and provide that education to all the people within the country. Because as you said, it's a big country, and a lot of people, I think, would benefit from such innovations.
Oh, and now that we've talked about that, seeing that we're still in the phase of COVID, phase 4, I think, and seeing that COVID has hit hard for most entrepreneurs, what support have you as a hub offered to these entrepreneurs, and what support have you offered to ensure sustainability of these businesses?
So from our perspective, what we've done, I think the first thing that we've done is we've tried to ensure all the safety measures within our space where we can keep it open, and essentially it is free for everybody that is within our cohort. So they have access to all of the infrastructure that we have here. We've made ourselves available. All of our business development support associates are available to them specifically to work with them on pretty much on the daily. So I think that's one of the things that we've done. We also provided them a path to funding. I think with the first round of that having essentially closed about 2 weeks ago, when we launched our Impact Angel Fund directly to invest in the businesses that came out of our incubation space. So that's another way that we feel like we're providing them funding, and then providing them support, and then going forward, sort of providing them support on how do they best utilize those funds to grow their businesses, such that they're no longer in a situation where they are building a business to survive, but rather building a business to grow and support their local communities by providing things like jobs, and also just opportunities for young people to engage in those businesses and learn, and providing services to them. But I will say that, COVID has been difficult for everybody. It's been difficult for us as a business, and so we all just tried our best to do what we can.
And apart from Digi-truck, which other programs do you run as Close the Gap?
Yeah, so we have a couple of programs. Digi-truck is a big one. The other thing that we have is the incubation program called Boost Your Business. I think we've mentioned it quite a bit before, but this is an incubation program really targeted at coastal youth, and trying to help them sort of conceive of business as an income generating activity. How do they take their business from just an idea all the way to something that generates revenue, and then from then on, how do they grow it from something that just generates revenue for them to something that generates revenue for the broader ecosystem and community in which they live in. So I think that's one of our service offerings here. We do also offer a co-working space where just individuals from the community can come work here and also interact with our members who are entrepreneurs within the coastal ecosystem. The computers we provide, and then starting hopefully in the next couple of months, we've built a plant in Jomvu, about an hour, 45 minutes outside of Mombasa, and this plant is equipped to actually refurbish computers. So right now, a lot of the refurbishing that we do it in Europe, and we bring the computers here, and we do the last mile of refurbishment here. What we hope to do, rather not hope to do, what we're planning to do, because we now have the infrastructure, is to now collect more equipment from Kenya, refurbish it, and give it a new life, so that we're able to reduce e-waste, which is actually one of the bigger, broader goals of Close the Gap, which I think I forgot to mention, is that one of the goals, by bridging the digital divide with refurbished equipment, you, in the short run, reduce e-waste, and then also being a collection point going forward for once things are completely done, being able to take in the computers and break them apart in their residue parts, sell off what is valuable, and then dispose of safely what is not. So I think that's sort of a big summary of all the things that we're doing, and hopefully there'll be a bunch more things in the pipeline that we can do.
Thank you. And what are your hopes for digital literacy levels being just raised, and also digital inclusion, just not only among the Kenyan youth, but the population at large?
So for me, I always think of it this way. I think my personal vision and Close the Gap's vision align in the sense that the opportunity that I spoke about earlier when I was a young man and had the ability to access the digital world from a very, very early age, and as a result able to discover things within that world for myself. That's my hope for Kenya, for this continent, is that everybody, right, from the time that they're a little boy or girl to the time that they're 80, should they choose to have the opportunity to be able to engage in that space, to explore it, whether be it in a structured or unstructured way, so that they sort of understand that world and how they fit in it, because it is becoming almost a parallel world to the world that we live in. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities that are going to come from that going forward. So to me, that's key. How do we make that a reality, and how do we make that experience not an experience of the privilege, but an experience of the many? And so that would be my goal. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Ngosa Mupela, for taking this time to speak with Assek about what you are doing as Close the Gap to reduce digital illiteracy levels in the country. It is quite amazing what you've been able to do, and we can't wait to see what's in store for Close the Gap.
Thank you very much for having me, and I'm looking forward to the next couple of years to see what we can all do together to do exactly what you just said.
Thank you. Want to be featured on the Members Spotlight? Reach out to us via communications@assek.ke and let us tell your story.